Let's see.
All right, there we go.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I hope that you guys are joining us. If you see us on the live, I wanted to give you the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. And I ask, like I always ask, for you to share this video. We already got a couple of people with us. To go ahead and share. As a reminder, all watch party content stays within your watch party. We cannot see it. We cannot engage in this discussion. And we need you actively on the feed to engage in the discussion. So please, 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 please make sure that you are on this live feed so that we can interact with you. All right. Let me go back to my Zoom so I can stay focused. All right, this one back on our hand. All right, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. This is your host, Sabria Mills. I am joined by my lovely and amazing co-host, Veronique Cooper.
Thank you for having me again.
Yes, mashallah. I'm so happy to be here, girl. I don't know about you guys, but I got my tea. So I got my tea.
Use my glasses so I can do like this. Oh, yeah.
Wait a minute, where my fan so I can go like this? Hold up.
Right, there you go. Hey, there you go. So as you guys know, the topic for today, mashallah, is Can Polygyny Be Peaceful? And I cannot wait to introduce this sister because before I do the official bio, and I just need to log on my phone to kind of follow and see what's going on. But Veronique, you are going to take care of the comments for the most part, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I'm on
okay. All right, guys, so make sure you are having a full interactive discussion, okay? It's very important that we have an interactive discussion. Assalamu alaikum. And share, okay? Because it's going to make sure you got your little tea, okay? Ladies and gents. All right, now I need to introduce this sister because this sister is special to me. So before I get into the official bio, I said this on the audio podcast, but mashallah, this sister is from my home, Philadelphia. You know, I saw her around when I was a young teenager. I looked up to her. She was married then. She was a shining example. And you know how sometimes when, you know, you're young, you're a teenager and their sisters in their 20s and they're married, they don't want to be bothered by no teenager. But that was not the case with Mecca. She always spent time with me. She always took time out to talk to me. And she actually was an early example for how just what a Muslim woman should be and look like. So I wanted to say it's very special to have sister Mecca Nandi or Nandi. You know, I always do that, Mecca.
Nandi,
okay, on the show. So let me introduce her, y'all, okay? So we know her, everybody passing it around, the co-wife coach, okay? So if you're not from Philly, you know, most people in Philly know her, but if you're not, I know people be like, oh, what is that? Okay, we're gonna break it down in a minute. She is the owner of Her, which represents healthy emotional resilience. She coaches adolescent girls and women on being women that are empowered by their emotional resilience. She also is an international marital and relationship advisor and coach. She has clients all over the world, okay? She's a keynote speaker. She does coaching classes and she coaches women and empowers them. She was featured on NPR radio as a panel speaker. She got articles out on her from the past that I dug up. She is just beyond dope. Welcome to the show, Sister Mecca. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you for such an awesome introduction. I'm like, who is she talking about? Oh, me?
You sis.
Alhamdulillah.
So give me 1 second, go. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at my comments. Okay. So mashallah, we are going to get right into it, inshallah, into the discussion. I just want to say this, that Mecca did a pre-recorded audio podcast. It is streaming now on all of our audio platforms. So you can go see it on Apple, Google. We are not going to repeat a lot of that dialogue. We're going to delve a little deeper, and we're also going to allow her to engage with all of you. Some of you guys have been dying to engage with my sister Mecca. So we're going to allow you to do that. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Everybody saying assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. All you wonderful sisters and brothers on the comments. Hey. All right. MashaAllah. So let's get into it. So we're going to ask some questions. We're going to open up. Veronique's going to open up and just get right into the conversation. Is that okay with you, Mecca?
That is fine. Let me get my fan just in case I'm in a hot seat. Hold up.
All right, sis. Okay, so you dove into the conversation about can polygyny be peaceful? And we know you as the co-wife coach. To start this off, can you just tell us a little bit about what the definition of polygyny is and what your role is as the co-wife coach?
Okay, so polygyny is when there is one male who has multiple women, or one husband who has multiple wives. I say that because some that practice polygyny are not always in a marital situation. So that's why I wanted to give both, both definitions. But it's one husband, one man with being married to multiple wives or being with multiple women. Knowingly, hopefully, but that's another story.
We're gonna talk about it now. We're gonna talk. Okay, and tell us about your role as a co-wife coach.
Okay, so my role as a co-wife coach is to help and assist those women who may be healing from previous impact and sometimes even current polygynous situations that have not been the best of experiences, that may have possibly been very emotional for them. I also work with women who are actually preparing to enter into polygynous marriages, and preparing them for some of the things that may occur and that may come with being in a polygynous marriage and family. And I also work with those women who just want to be educated about it. And I love talking to those women who don't like it, can't stand it, hate it, have a problem with it, and can't wrap their head around it. Because I'm not sitting here saying that that polygyny must be practiced by everybody. However, it should be understood by everybody. So if anything, it's an educational piece. So those who may have those, harshful feelings towards it, I love actually speaking with them as well to be able to kind of dissect what the real problem may really be, because it's not necessarily polygyny. So yes.
Okay. Wow, that's really deep. That's really deep. And I was talking as I was introducing this episode, I was like, I was hesitant to have the episode. And, I'm not going to lie, because it's like the conversations always are, first of all, the conversations are a lot of times between men and women. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And sometimes it can be very combative, right? But mashallah, I love the dialogue that I had with you, Mecca. It was very insightful. It was very humbling. And so I want you to provide a little bit more of that insight. One of the things during that conversation, and I'm going to keep referencing that podcast. So for those that want to build on what we're talking about, please go back there because it gives a lot of the foundation. Mecca tells her story. We're not going to kind of retrace all of that. But you did mention the importance of men and women being honest during the courting process, especially our brothers, right? So
absolutely.
Based on your experience, what are some ways that couples should first approach the polygyny conversation? And I'm talking about from the jump, from the courting process. And where do you see brothers and sisters actually go wrong in the beginning stages of polygyny? So that's a heavy loaded question, but I want to give some context, Mecca, if that's okay. I had a conversation with a young brother that said he was interested. I mean, he doesn't have one wife, and he said he wants to be in a polygyny. He wants to be in polygyny. And so he said he has so many issues with just approaching this kind. He said he want to be honest. He said, I want to tell the sisters from the front. They always say we're not honest. But he said that the sisters get upset. They don't want to be bothered. And she said that how can he even go about having these conversations if he can't even broach it and be honest from the beginning? So what are some ways, what are some steps? How does this even begin during the courting process?
So when it comes, but so much I can say from a male's perspective because I've never been a man a day in my life. However, I always say to both parties, be your true, authentic self. Never try to hide that part of you because you may fear, knowingly or unknowingly, because sometimes those fears may be suppressed and covered up, but you fear what may be. Sometimes men, they may see a woman that they actually really are into, they really like, they want to pursue, they come to know her, and everything is great, and they're scared to actually say that I'm a polygynous man for whatever reason. Could be past experiences. It could have been something that may have been said or done in a previous marriage or relationship. So they kind of like hide that in the cut until they really ready to actually practice it. And sometimes that may be years later. Be upfront in the beginning. Be your true, authentic self in the beginning for both parties. So that way you can get exactly who you want. Say that, this is something that I am interested in. Maybe not necessarily pursuing it at this very moment, but sometime in the future, this would be something that I'm interested in. Now, a woman, a sister that may be hearing this, she may respect that. May not necessarily like polygyny, but she respects, I was about to say, his flag. She may respect his honesty, his upfront honesty in the beginning, where it may actually give her a second thought to say, okay, well, I like the fact that he was this upfront in the very beginning. It can only get better, possibly, if we were to pursue things. And maybe it might be something I may be open to, not necessarily right now, but maybe it's something that I can consider. I may consider. Now, women on the other hand, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please finish that thought. I just, this is just so juicy.
Because now some women, at the table, when it comes down for those sit downs and you're courting, some women, they may know, be like, listen, I don't want polygyny up front, point blank, period, not going to have it in my contract. You ask for another wife, I'm asking for a divorce, you sign it, that means you're going to grant it, so on and so forth. Sometimes when they say that before a man can even say anything else, men being for whatever their reasons are, sometimes they'll say, well, I don't want it now, but I'm just not going to say nothing because maybe as we get a chance to know each other and work with each other, maybe she'll be open to the process. Another red flag. Because again, you're misleading. But I would say, there's also some women that may be approached by a man and he does tell them that up front and they straight pass them by. They don't even give them a chance. And everything else, with all their boxes were checked with that particular person, but they can't get past that. The question I would ask, especially if it's something that is permissible based off of your belief and practice, ask yourself why. Why not? Especially if this person seems to be like the one, start to ask yourself why. And you can even say to him that, I really think that, this would work, but at the same time, I'm really having a problem with polygyny. I'm not sure if I can do that. If you're upfront with him, he may be able to work with you, where he may say, I understand, maybe we'll, this is something I do want. And if you're willing to work, I'm willing to work with you, meaning being open to the process. And though that sounds like a fantasy, it does actually really happen in marriages. I've seen it, So it does, yes. So that does happen, but it's just, we have to get past the fear of the unknown.
So this was my initial thought. So when the young brother mentioned that to me, I'm just trying to put it in perspective. Okay, this is a young brother. He's showing interest in a sister, initial conversations. He immediately brings up polygyny. Many would say, I would even say a mature sister would probably find that to be, pretty upfront, honest. But some women may say, well, you don't even know me. You didn't even get a chance to get to know me yet. While spend time with me, you already talked about another woman. I've heard that. So how do women navigate past that feeling?
I stop thinking about, you don't even know me. It's not, because in reality, you don't really know him. This is where I am so not pro the sister. I'm not pro the brother. I am pro right.
Okay.
Just as much as you want him to know you and he doesn't know you, you don't know him neither. Okay. Meaning, what is his reasons for polygyny? Because a lot of times women, we think, he just wants another woman as far as attraction and intimacy and so on and so forth. But it's deeper than men. Like, women don't really have the conversations. I won't say some women do not have the conversations with their husbands or that man to actually understand why polygyny for you. What does polygyny mean to you? So don't jump and say that you're trying to get to know somebody else. You're trying to be with somebody else before you even get to know me. No, look at, he's actually being upfront. He didn't say that he wants polygyny right now at this very moment. It might not be until years later, but he's being honest with you, opposed to some of the men who just don't say nothing and deal with the whatever and later on in the future when and if they do choose to follow through. So it's all about understanding each other, you know, understanding how the natural essence of each party is, the natural essence of a woman and how she operates, and the natural essence of a man and how he operates.
Wow.
Now y'all keep going. I'm looking at y'all stuff. Who are in polygamous marriages, but I can't even consider having to share my husband. Okay. One sister said, I respect women who are in polygamous marriages, but I can't even consider having to share my husband with another woman. That's a common,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, understand, like, you know, kind of perception that we have as women. And is that okay? Is that a woman being honest? Like, you know how to.
That is her honesty, and that is her prerogative. Let's keep in mind though that nobody belongs to nobody. I am alone to my husband just as much as he is alone to me. He does not belong to me. He is not my husband. I'm not his wife. You know, we are married. We're in a relationship, but we are each other's loans and gifts. And just like loans and gifts, those things can be given and also taken away.
Okay. Well, they going in on the comments.
I understand.
Ooh, the comments going.
I understand, and I know. Listen, I'm like,
no, Mecca got
I can't see the comments.
No, I'm gonna bring it up. I'm gonna bring another one before Veronique. Yeah, Mecca, I'm gonna bring you one more comment before Veronique goes into her next question. But she said, with all due respect to brothers, the idea that polygyny is part of the deen baffles me. Okay, hold on, because some of them can't emotionally or financially support one wife, but think that polygyny is the way. Do they not read the hadith and ayats that say one wife is best? What are your thoughts? Girl, we getting deep already. Go ahead, Mecca.
So, if you look at Rasulullah, since we're going to speak on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has beautiful experiences with polygyny as well as with monogamy. Examples to leave us by. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a man that wasn't so, if you look at his lifestyle, you know, he could have had a very lofty life, you know, could have given his wives whatever, but that's not how he was built. That's not how he lived. And if you look at the examples of him and his wives, what they had, and what was most important in those polygynous marriages, opposed to, you know, saying, okay, yes, of course, you should be able to take care of your spouse. The man should be able to take care of his wives and make sure that they have, you know, shelter, home, the things that is our right. Absolutely.
Right.
However, sometimes even when you have women who actually has a husband who can do all of those things, there's still always something else. There's never going to be, oh, he's ready. Oh, he can do it. You know, he can do it if he tried. You know, they don't have that. It's always going to be something because we're always looking for an excuse for it to be a no. And if you realize, I said we. I'm not taking myself out of this equation because as I'm speaking to everyone, I'm also speaking to myself first as a reminder. And who's to say that this may have also been my journey? And it's not about necessarily some of the excuses, because again, if he has everything together, there's still going to be something to find. Just like us as women, right? We can be all together, right? Beautiful. Other people, we look flawless, right? We always seem to find a fault. Even if everything else is together, we'll find some little fine line of problematic something. You know, there's nothing that is perfect in life. Not saying that that's what the sister is saying, you know, but we have to really, if we're going to really use the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and this is from both parties, not just from the women's aspect, but from the men's too. We have to make sure that we're looking at the total picture, especially the polygynist example that was set before. Was he living, you know, in a certain way? What was he doing? How was he operating with his wives? What did he provide?
But he was definitely emotionally, and Veronique, I'm sorry.
No, it's
I'm gonna let you. He was definitely emotionally sound, and I think, I mean, let's shelf the financial, even though it's important. We know that there's a lot that happens on this emotional piece, and I think the sister's speaking to that. So, could it be a valid point that some brothers do need to emotionally develop before they? Okay, all right.
Absolutely. And it's all about knowing, it's all about going back to understanding that person, understanding that opposite sex. Right. You know, understanding how to communicate. Men cannot communicate with their wives like other men. Like, you can't communicate to them like they the brothers. Right. Women cannot communicate with their husbands like that's her girlfriend, or like that's one of her friends. You know, that's another sister. Right. We have to understand that we have to communicate with one another respectfully as the opposite sex, and knowing and understanding how that opposite sex functions and operates, and what they're in tune with, and what actually takes them away from everything else. So absolutely, having that emotional stance and foundation is extremely important for both parties. Both parties. Because a lot of times women forget that men are emotional too. We see them act certain ways and be like, he's tripping, he's being emotional. It just don't look like the way that we are emotional. Right. So once we realize and respect and understand each other's emotional reactions towards certain things, things will be a lot better within marriages, regardless of it's monogamy or polygyny.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Sorry, Veronique, go ahead. These comments is off the chain, Mecca.
And they're going so fast, but I'm keeping track. We're going to get all these questions.
We're going to get to you guys. Don't worry. Keep going. Keep them coming.
Yes. So there's instances where polygyny may be seen as a solution for families. Can you go into how and why it can be seen that way?
For those, I mean, it can be a solution for those women who may need they may need a husband. They may want a husband. Their children may need a father figure. And how it actually can possibly work. Some women I know, literally, they want a family, but they don't want a full-time husband. Let's just keep that, you know, where polygyny would be best, whether it be because of career, job, family. You know, maybe they're raising their children, so on and so forth. They want to make sure that they're giving their children a certain amount of attention, along with being able to have nights or days, however it is, with that husband, that if they're in a polygynous situation. But polygyny does definitely offer some type of stability, protection, and security, as well as maintenance, especially if it's done correctly, to those women who normally would be single.
So that kind of goes into one of the comments in here that says, what was the original purpose of polygamy in Islam, and is it still being done for the same reasons?
Well, I mean, as far as polygyny in Islam, polygyny was practiced before, if you think about it, before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received revelation. Right. So that wasn't something that, you know, polygyny gave, it brought stability and control into, Islam brought polygyny a certain sense of stability and control. Hence, you know, because there was times where multiple wives was way more than 4. Yeah. You know, but Islam brought some sense of stability and realization of, no, bro, 4 is, if you can, 4 is your max. Like, you do not need 10, not right now, no. I mean, not to say that other people didn't do it, or some people, they do it, and that's their prerogative, but Islamically, you know, it brought a certain sense of control into the previously ways of how polygyny was practiced, because polygyny goes way, way back. Way back.
So far as I guess the question is, as far as how it was so I'm just gonna like I'm gonna say there's some belief, but the understanding is that it was practiced, I guess, for a multitude of reasons. But a lot of widows were married, a lot of
Widows,
divorced
yes.
women. You know, these were the kind of the common situations. Now,
Right.
we're not sure. You know, not sure if that's
The
what's
reason
going
that-
on, or if
Well,
that's
we
what.
still outnumber the men.
Okay.
We statistically speaking, women still outnumber men.
Mm-hmm.
That's available, because even if you start deducting the numbers of incarcerated men that may be homosexual, men that may be too old. Ooh, let me not say it that way. That may be older, along with a few other things. Men that may be away at war. Men that stop sipping that tea like that. You know, along with a few other things that can go along those lines, where we're still outnumbering the available men, marriage material type men.
Can I say, okay, so this is the only issue. I hear that so much, Mecca, and I know what you're speaking is a statistical fact, so I'm not going to argue in that regard. My issue with that, and it's funny because Veronique and I just had this conversation. My issue with that is it's almost made to seem like it's the burden of the sister that some of y'all jokers is in jail. Excuse me, brothers, I love y'all. But because some of y'all in jail, some of y'all decided to be gay. So it's like, okay, sisters, now, you know, ain't no available men. But it's like, brothers, why not start campaigns to begin cleaning up homosexuality in the Black community, or begin to help young brothers get off the streets so they're not incarcerated? Now, I'm not saying don't practice polygyny. That's not my position. But I think when we hold that argument, especially brothers, I know you're speaking to a statistical fact. It almost sounds like, okay, are you doing any initiatives to kind of, you know what I mean, fix this issue? And I'm talking about in the Black community. Because I always hear like, we are incarcerated. What initiatives are you having so we don't end up in prison, or so the Black brothers don't end up gay? Am I off with that position, Mecca? And I'll check me if I am. That's just
I mean, it sounds good. It sounds good.
Okay.
It sounds good, but is it going to be? Is it going to actually get done? Are there going to be these people that's actually going to step up to those places? Possibly, you know. But even still, in doing so, we still outnumber men.
Okay.
You know, if you literally was to fix everything, right? Ooh, everything is, I won't say magically, but everything is fixed, right?
Right.
What about the women that still are not married? Then what?
Okay. Fair enough. So one sister said, cleaning up homosexuality, I'd rather stay single. All right, sis, we hear you. And then they said being outnumbered is not reason good enough religiously or spiritually or emotionally. I mean,
but let's bring it to another point.
Okay.
How did what's going on with Allah? He created us differently. The men were. Is polygyny a part of their nature? And I mean, it's very questionable, because even that part in the Quran where it says how we were created equally, but they have one thing of, you know, over us. A lot of times over years you hear people say strength, but there's some women who's stronger than men. Okay. You know, but it's not necessarily saying that what that specific thing is. But I see that may, I'm not saying it is, but that may be it. Because at the end of the day, like, what else? I mean, everything else, we're equal. I mean, we're in a sense as far as, you know, how we are as humans, how we are as male and female, totally different. Okay, so I got to do something real quick, because there's about to be a storm coming through. My windows are wide open and things are blowing. So just give me 1 moment.
Okay. So while you're doing that, Mecca, we're going to interact with you guys. I want to catch back up. Veronique, you have one that's good? Something you can talk about?
Many men in my community, leave their families here on welfare and go and marry other wives elsewhere. Most wives find out after the fact.
I'm from Philly. I'm being shady.
Goodness.
Okay, I was like, are you from Philly? Yeah. So, okay, she's back. Cool. So Mecca, well, you good? Are you good though there? Are you safe?
I'm fine. I just had to close my windows before everything would have started blowing in this room.
Okay. So Mecca, we have brought up, can you say it again, Veronique?
Let me scroll back up. So it said, many men in my community leave their families here on welfare and go and marry other wives elsewhere. most wives find out after the fact. And I'm going to add to that when it says we must admit that many women do not want to practice polygyny because of how it's been practiced unjustly in so much pain.
Absolutely. 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 And this is where accountability comes into place. And I'm sorry, but people need to be held accountable, you know? And if you look in the communities, this is one of the reasons, I won't say reasons, but this could possibly be the result of the lack of education, communication, classes, workshops on polygyny in our community.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is practiced. This is something that is a very tabooish type conversation in the community. People don't want to talk about it too much. And the only times that, sometimes the imams are talking about it is because of failed situations that are brought to their doorstep.
Mm.
What about prepping and educating the community? And I say community, meaning the women and the men, on what to do, what not to do, what's permissible, what's not permissible. So, and then on top of that, again, when and if those things do occur, as far as those problematic situations, those men being held accountable by the men in their community.
Mm-hmm.
This is a possible result of the lack of those things.
Yeah. And you know what, Mecca, I want to say this because this is really interesting. We talked about now you, Mecca, very easy. I approach you. Hey, you want to talk about it? No problem. You do this all the time. Sister, when I tried to approach brothers, hey, brother, come on, you want to talk about it? Oh no, I can't publicly talk about it. Oh no, it's a secret. Are you used to seeing that? Is that common? Or not that it's a secret, but they're saying like they don't want to get the slack from coming on and speak as men who practice polygyny. These are men that actually practice it well. Sorry?
Are you saying the imams or the brothers in general?
Yeah, so brothers that are in polygynous marriages were not willing to come publicly to speak about it as you are, because they're seeing they don't really want the backlash of that, even if they're practicing it well, like they kind of have success with it. Is that a common thing that you're used to seeing, or are we just harder on our brothers about it?
I'm not sure. That's not something that I regularly see as far as amongst the men, because I'm not around them like that to be able to know that that's something like how we roll is how we roll as far as my family.
Okay.
There's no, if my husband is out with all of his wives, this is his wife, that's his wife, and that's his wife.
Oh, y'all go all out together?
Oh, we've done that. Oh, plenty of times, girls. Yes.
Nice.
But at the same time, everybody has their reasons. I mean, and if anything, I will always say, what is their reasons? And I mean, backlash from what? Like I would dig into, because I honestly, I don't know. Everybody's reasonings may be different. Maybe publicly, maybe it might be, legally. I really don't know. I don't come across that because, again, like I said, I'm not really amongst men who may be like in polygyny and they do this, that, and the fourth or whatever, as far as they reject wanting to talk about it. Because I'm in Philly, I mean, I can name a handful of people and they're fine, with their marriages and their relationships. And I've seen them talk about it freely. So it may just be everybody may be different in different areas, across the globe.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So how I want to ask this question. I want to, Bernie, please pull up a few from the comments. But how can we begin to have, because one of the reasons why I really want it, and I encourage brothers to come on the live. I do see that the comments are heavily by women, and that's fine. And I know brothers are here. They're just quiet. How can we have though better, how can we have healthier dialogue around this between brothers, women, men and women, excuse me?
Having the help, by having brothers talk to the men about it, because they don't want to talk to women. They don't want to talk about it around women. Because they already get bashed enough. They get, kind of like the finger pointed, was negative. There's like, who wants to, if you're going into a space where that the majority of the people disagree with what you may how you may feel and what you may practice, you're not going to really want to speak much. You're not going to want to be vocal, because in reality, sometimes those words can be taken upon as an attack and not an intentional attack, but it just makes them feel, not understood. So I understand why, sometimes in platforms, how men may not necessarily want to, be super vocal because they're misunderstood, and on top of that, assumptions are made, and sometimes people come at you as if they trying to tell you how you feel or how you should feel or how you should live your life, when they really don't understand. And again, this is from the opposite sex. If a woman can't come and tell a man how he should feel and how he should live his life, when you don't know how he operates, how he feels as a man. So if you don't feel understood, you're not going to want to be vocal, only to get, more things kind of like tossed towards you.
Veronique?
So I have a question here that says, how do other men check their brothers if the community condones the ill-gotten marriages? So a lot of times the brother takes the side of the brothers and the sisters are kind of just left to deal with, all the wrong that's happening in their marriages. So how
I can't tell you how a brother would check a brother because I'm not a brother, but I can definitely say that the way that brothers communicate and the way that they dialogue and the way that they check, it doesn't look like how a woman would. I definitely can say that. And, again, it's all about conversation, and it's not about attacking, but it's about understanding, and then being open enough to take in and also to give, like give your part, but to also take in and to receive the other party's part as well, regardless if it's the person that's correcting and the person that may possibly be in the wrong. But I can't paint a picture of how that would look like because I'm not a brother.
Okay, well, another one says, when do you think a potential wife should meet the wife or the co-wife, I'm assuming?
It all depends on the circumstance of that family, where that particular pre-existing wife and incoming wife. So it all depends on where they are, and in a sense, as far as if the pre-existing wife is open to the process and the incoming wife is open to meeting them, that can fall in the lines of before the marriage happens, maybe right after they get married, months, sometimes maybe even a year later, because there's something that I call the adjustment period that occurs in the beginning stages of being in a polygynous marriage.
Wow. And it's funny, somebody made the point, and I know because I listened to the audio that you spoke about this, about how we only really hear the horror stories usually. And they're speaking about how they've noticed that you don't really see wealthy men taking on multiple wives. It's usually the brothers who don't really, have those boxes checked, who are taking on the multiple wives. Thank you.
So they may be, you just may not see them. They're not always in your city, in your town,
That environment is important to put in context, Mecca. Like where you live and your environment. And
yes. So it's not necessarily always going to be right up in your face, right there, depending on where you're from. And there's even some who collectively work together that may be in your area and in your face, and that may be like not just surviving but thriving in their polygynous marriages too. But that's another conversation.
Yeah, and I have a pretty close friend that has a beautiful polygynous relationship, and she kind of opened my eyes. And one thing I was really reflective of is just the fact of, depending on our environment, the toxic relationships are toxic relationships, whether it's toxic polygynous relationships or toxic monogamous. And if you want to really do percentage to percentage, you'll probably be way more toxic monogamous marriages that occur. And I'm not pushing any one agenda, but I do think it's important to put in perspective. I think when it happens with polygyny, we like, oh my gosh, like, can you believe, it's like, but it's like, but they was wilding out, this one brother that was married to this sister still or whatever that happened. So I also think that is something as women, and this is just a woman to woman conversation, we don't often be fair with. And I should just be honest.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that you said that, because you take that out, you take polygyny out, and you say Islam or a religious belief, and you have a group of people who may do whatever. You're not going to say that their whole thing is, toxic or bad or evil, because that group of people were. So these group of polygynous nightmares, situations, or horror stories, or whatever you want to call it, failed marriages or toxic relationships, you can't sit there and take all of those that you may know of or see or hear about and just wrap it around polygyny and say that's what polygyny is. No, that's what those people, like, the people that may be in a religion or, a belief, if they have a certain type of behavior that's not matching to what that's supposed to, what that belief system follows, it's not the belief system, it's the person. It's not polygyny, it's the people. It's the people that practice it is what gives it its great experience or not so great experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's a really good context. And sis, there's somebody that asked, I know you defined polygyny at the beginning, but I got this question multiple times before we got on live. Can you please tell the difference between polygyny and polygamy? People are confused about the two.
Polygamy is when a man or a woman can have multiple husbands or multiple wives. Mm-hmm. Polygyny is when a man can have multiple wives. Point blank, period.
Okay.
I have another one. It says, I personally am not mature enough to deal with polygyny, but if it ever is a situation that I may be forced or faced with in my marriage, how can I handle it maturely? Because I'm initially going to feel like I want to leave the marriage and not to be bothered with a co-wife. I personally have not had a good example of polygyny. I've seen a lot of sisters go through a lot of mess over it. So how can she handle it maturely?
That's what Mecca does.
Well, I would say seek out other women who may be in positive polygynous situations, And some people might say, well, I don't live around or I don't know anybody. There's online, we have social media. There's a plethora of polygynous groups that's on Facebook. There's this page called Magic the Co-Wife Coach, that has a plethora of video content that you can watch, that you may be a part of. There's different other families that you can talk to as far as families that may also be coaches that you can talk to, that you can help. Like, again, like I said, prepare yourself for that. But surrounding yourself by positive situations in order for you to be able to gain the knowledge as well as to enhance your energy and prepare yourself if and when that may possibly happen and occur into your life. I mean, again, being prepared for something that may never happen is a great thing. It's the part when you're not prepared for the thing that actually will. That's what's going to get you.
Yeah. And so, and I have a quick add on to that. And I know we got the questions is coming like crazy, Mecca, but just because tomorrow we're doing, the opposite, like, is monogamy a dirty word, right? And so the sisters experience, and I just want, and I think we talked about it on the podcast, but, and I wanted to just get your insight before we engage in that discussion. But, the sister's experience, she wasn't coming at the institution of polygyny by no means, but her experience was just of kind of using polygyny, or a brother using polygyny as an excuse for infidelity. Is that, first of all, is that something that is common? And if so, how do we address it? Because in her situation, when the infidelity was found out, it was like, well, I can get it. I'll just marry her. Like, I'll fix it. I'll just marry her. What would you advise about that? Or just what would be your perspective on that type of situation? Is that just something totally left field? Don't got nothing to do with polygyny?
So you're saying, what would you do in a situation if a man was trying to fix an infidelity type situation and make it into a polygynist, try to make it right?
Right.
My thing is, it's going to be a lot of hurt in the beginning, and that person is the infidelity part is wrong. There's no excuse for it. However, I always like it's always two sides to a coin, right? Was there a moment where polygyny was brought up, or they said that they was a polygynous person? It's just like, and they just didn't feel like they was heard. If that's the case, still no excuse. No excuse. That's like,
our Islam doesn't play with it. There's no, yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, you might as well just go ahead and talk to your wife. Like I said before, be honest up front. Be honest up front and talk to those women in the beginning, even if you're not going to do it. Even if you're not thinking about it in the beginning, at least you can have the discussion and mention it. So if for some reason it does come about, for whatever reason, because it's not always about man wants to be with another woman as far as intimately, or let me say sexually, but it could be other things. It could be other reasons, other purposes, that I may know of based off of what men tell me. And I come from a male dominant family. So that part I can say, where I can get insight from them as far as their views on that. But it's nothing worth your soul. I'm sorry. It's nothing worth your soul. But it's just like that at that point, it's just like, okay, it happens with polygamy. Okay, if you're willing to work with it, then that's fine. But that's really touchy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's a really touchy situation because it's like at this point you're now battling with trust issues. You don't trust the person. You're not sure if they will do it again. There's always going to be some whatever. But just because that happened, as far as like that infidelity situation, you still can go back, whether it be later on in life, and ask, what was your reasons for doing that? Ask, are you a polygynous man? Is this something, that are you looking for something else or whatever? Because sometimes men, they may not even want polygyny. They may do certain things because of whatever that they may be going through that may not have anything to do with the women. And sometimes maybe it does have something to do with the women. But either way, it's still no.
It's a no-go.
It's really still no excuse.
Okay.
So that's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
What you're going to say with that one.
Yeah. All right, V, do we have enough? We have so many questions, but we're going to just, we're going to
keep on what this brother said, because we got a couple brothers in here. And he said the issue of brothers checking brothers is that sisters will forego going to the masjid before marriage. Yet once the drama occurs, then sisters come to the masjid to check brothers not tied to leadership. Bottom line, sisters have to stop marrying rogue Muslim brothers.
Oh. I don't think there's a question there, but
no, it's not a question. I just want to put that comment out there.
The importance of that comment is use your walis, sisters. Make sure your wali is doing his job, please, and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right, accountability. Okay, right.
Yes.
Right. Go ahead.
Some of these questions are asking for a man's perspective, so I'm going to kind of pass those. What about the children when polygyny doesn't work out? I know a lot of kids who are hurt because their sisters/brothers are now gone.
Who said that they're gone? Just because a person may be divorced doesn't necessarily mean that the children are divorcing their sibling. Because I know a lot of situations where polygyny is no longer a part of maybe a practice of a family, but they still see their siblings. They still go with their siblings. They still talk to their siblings. So, I mean, because that could be in monogamy too. You know, like if Abu was married to Sister Khadijah and then they divorced, but they had children, and then Abu married my mother and then they divorced, and obviously they had me, and maybe I grew up with my siblings, you know, and my dad now is no longer with my mom. You know, things work out as, I mean, I know that sounds confusing because I actually did it the flip way. I should have been Khadijah's daughter, not.
It's okay.
But if you reverse it, it's all about what actually happens with that man, what he has set up as far as with those children. But it also goes back to also making sure that the women are not carrying their hurt and bitterness towards the children, because that's not fair. You know, which happens even outside of monogamy, or even just in relationships, where sometimes the hurt or heart of a woman can carry into how they allow their children to cohabitate with the parents or with their siblings.
Yeah. So I have one that I want to ask. And Osa, I see you on the live, but don't text me, girl. I'm on the live. But my friend, she just what do you do if your husband treats polygyny like casual sex?
What do you do when your husband treats polygyny like casual sex?
You're stressing me out.
Have the conversation. I just say, have the conversation and let them know, like, yo, what's going on? You know, what was your reasons for marrying me? But also, it goes back to also making sure that wali, going back to that wali, knowing who this brother is, because sometimes some situations are like that, and that brother winds up having a track record of being a serial marrier, you know, someone who marries for whatever. You know, so having that wali check in on that brother is very important. Having you answer your questions, you know, ask your questions, I should say, at the sit down before marrying. And once you see a little bit of a habit, say something before it becomes months later down the line. Like if you see that it's like, you know, 3, 4, 5 times a week, and that's all you see him is when that happens, and 2 weeks go by and it's the same thing, on the third week, First of all, my period might be on. Say my period is on and we need to talk. Okay, don't
Girl,
say we
Mecca,
need to
keep
talk.
it real. Oh my gosh.
Somebody said, better get a divorce before you get some hot bumps, child.
Listen, that too. Well, no, I hope that you actually got tested before you actually even married.
Can you speak on that? That's a strong recommendation, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So yes. So there's so much I can say because we're on Facebook. It's
just going havoc right now. Why didn't you go to the masjid, to the imam before you got married? I don't know where that okay, sis. So Veronique, do you have one? I see you laughing because I think they're just going back and forth with each other, which is what we did not want. I do want to say that we want to have healthy dialogue. And I want to just say this. I know this is an emotionally charged conversation, but I want to say that it is so important for us to make sure we allow space for other people's perspectives and opinions. We have a habit in our culture of pointing the fingers, of being each other's enemies instead of each other's allies. Mecca said it best. It starts with the conversation. It starts with the understanding. And we can practice that even now on your live feed, people. I mean, we appreciate the intense dialogue, but just let's practice listening and trying to have some mutual understanding. We don't have to agree, right, Mecca?
Let me, we definitely don't have to agree, but I want to say this. It's great that they're going off.
Okay.
Because maybe whatever it is that they've been harboring is now being released.
Okay.
Because you have to understand, polygyny is a trigger for a lot of women who have experienced infidelity. Because in some ways, and I've spoken about this before, polygyny it can mirror. I'm not saying it is. It can mirror infidelity that may have possibly been done upon you once upon a time.
Yeah.
And it's not, and if it's a trigger for you, then that means that there was no healing done. There was no work done. That's why I said I love women. I love talking to women who actually are having problems and issues with it, because that means that there's other things underlining, because it's not really polygyny. It's the person that practiced it, or the experience that they observed, and the things that they're harboring and holding on to that needs to go. It needs to be let go so that way you can live your life healthy with emotional resilience. Hello, had to throw that in here.
Even our parents, right, Mecca? Even experience, like maybe we've seen that with our parents or something like that. That could be triggering as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's why I say I observe, because it's not always your own personal experience like you went through it, but you could have seen your parents. You could have seen it happen with anybody in your family, a close friend. Yeah. So and that may have affected you, or you felt that. And when you see that being brought upon your table, you're like, don't bring that here. You already on a defensive mode.
Immediately.
Like you ready to tackle anything, anybody. And that's coming towards you with that, you can't even get the ollie out. They just say, oh, no, we ain't talking about polygyny. Not here, not now.
Right.
So you have to be mindful. And but it's good to have that energy of release. And it's good to have the dialogue. So that way there's clear understanding from, when you put that energy out there, then a person can say to you, maybe it might be polygyny, but maybe it might be something else that obviously needs to be addressed. But the thing is, we're not doing the work to address some of the things that we're harboring and suppressing and pushing down, that's seeping out in other different ways, throughout our lives.
Right. Wow. And that's interesting. I'm glad you said that, because I just got a text from a friend that was saying like, oh, this is stressing me out. But it's and I get it. I get it, but it's healthy. I do think it's healthy, even though it may seem a little bit and I think it would be the same side on the men, right? It's the same thing, because sometimes they come out and lash too. And
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like some things that they're harboring as well in their situations with women. That's like, whoa, brother, where did that come from? So you're right.
Now, on my live previous before this one, that was something that I spoke about earlier, which was having an understanding of each other's communication language, how to communicate. And on top of that, knowing what that emotional makeup is for that person. And a lot of times we get into these relationships and marriages and we don't really know each other. And I'm not talking about how do you communicate, how you are emotionally, but I mean, that's a part of it, but we don't really know the actual person. We only find out when those layers are unfolded in the midst of a whole bunch of other things. And you be like, oh, you crazy. You got some issues, or you got some problems. Oh, I didn't know this part of you. I didn't know this side. We don't, because we don't do the work, and we don't also share. We don't do the work. We're not aware that sometimes there's underlying issues that may possibly occur. We don't realize that we haven't healed from previous situations, that from whatever part of our life. It could be in your childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, whatever. And those things start to surface up into our relationships, and we don't know how to deal with it. You know what? How we deal with it is we run. We either run away from one another, or one party just ignores and another party runs towards someone else. Yeah.
SubhanAllah. I just really appreciate this discussion. It's still going on. We are people, just so you know, we're wrapping up. And I do want to say though that, we will continue. This is a marriage series. So we started off with polygyny, which I knew people would fire people up. We are going into monogamy tomorrow. Friday, we're going to talk about plural marriages, which is essentially polygyny, but we have another spin to it. So we will continue this dialogue. We will see the other coin tomorrow. So, just, relax everybody, but we're glad that you were passionate, and we're glad that you're actually having this dialogue back and forth with each other. And we appreciate your perspectives. Mecca, did you have any last final points that you want to leave us with? Because they are left hanging, because they still going in, but it's okay.
Well, I will say this,
please,
that One, I love my polygynous family. My co-wives are awesome. I have two awesome co-wives. Alhamdulillah, they're beautiful blessings to my family, and I appreciate them. I appreciate my husband, who's an awesome dude. I always call him dude, but he's an awesome dude and a great leader for my family. And if anything, I want to say that just because some of you may see me talk about my perspective, so on and so forth, and how and where I am currently right now, and how I make it look so, whatever, you put in whatever word you choose, whatever you're feeling, that I'm not perfect. I don't have a perfect marriage. I'm not a perfect person. But what I am is I am a positive person. And I have a positive marriage and positive relationships as far as within my family unit. And when I say my family unit, it extends not just to my co-wives and our children and our husband, but it extends to my mother who loves my co-wives and my co-wives' mother who loves us, and our mother-in-law who loves all of us, where we work collectively together, but it's based off of, again, positive reception.
Yeah.
Not perfect. Because do I deal with jealousy? Yes. Hello, I'm human, right?
Yeah.
But it's about how you react when those things are brought your way, when those tests and those challenges are brought your way. Look at polygyny, and I'm not this polygynous advocate by no means. I'm just a person practicing polygyny happily. I like to say that me and my family, we happy in polygyny, okay? But if you look at it this way, polygyny is not necessarily this evil thing. If it's practiced correctly and right and justly, then it actually can be very beneficial to the family, including the children. So I just want you all to keep that in mind. And at the same time, it also it is placed before you for a purposeful reason if you're tested with it. Instead of rejecting the decree that the Creator, Almighty Allah, has placed before you, instead of rejecting it, see where it's trying to lead you. See what it's trying to teach you. See what it's trying to show you. Because if you notice, sometimes certain things arise, kind of rise up when polygyny is brought into someone's personal life.
Right.
Instead of you looking at polygyny, look at the feelings that you got going on right now at that moment. Start questioning those feelings. Why am I feeling this way? Where did this come from? And just run it down the line. So because in reality, those things are actually issues, faults, flaws, or things that you may have possibly suppressed that you haven't thought about taking care of or doing the work. And as people, as individuals, regardless if you're a woman or a man, we're looking to progress and become better each and every day.
Yeah.
And if this is brought before you, then this may also be a part of helping you become a better person every day. I love polygyny because what it has brought to me, what it has brought out of me. And if I had the chance to do it all over again, I would, the same exact way with the same man.
Okay.
Yes. So that's what I leave for the people. So don't fight it. Sometimes just look at it and see what is it that the Almighty Allah is trying to show you. And be open to the process of doing the possible work.
But sister, one thing, it's interesting. So one thing I do notice when some of my sisters that go through this is what they see glaring when it happens is an unhealthy attachment that they have to another human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? I see that glaring because if we know as human beings, where our ultimate attachment is to the Creator, right? So I see that's kind of some of the things I often see. It's not pointing any fingers. It's just something that needs to be evaluated because a lot of times as women, we go into our relationship. Right.
Yes. It allows you to be able to shift it the way it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we can meet our Creator, right, sis? We can't be, we have one God, right? We have our love, our ultimate love, our heart belongs to one Creator, right? That's who we're going to meet on the day of judgment. We're not even going to be thinking about Him. We love y'all here, but it's a different place. That's seriously.
Yes.
But seriously, our unhealthy attachments to our brothers as women, unfortunately, when we conditioned in this society, you know, and it's a pain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it seems like he always teaches us, like he always gives us this
Yes.
trial so that we bring
Absolutely.
out of his love, so that he brings us back to him. It's such
Absolutely, yes.
I'm not saying polygyny, but any test that
Yes.
makes you realize that is a mercy.
It is.
As one that had
Absolutely.
her heart broken a time or two. So
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
thank you, Mecca. You are, like I said, to me, mashallah, you are an amazing human being. Mashallah, you are beautiful inside and out. And I say that because I've known you since you were way before you had co-wives, sis. Way before you was a co-wife
Yes.
coach. Okay. I appreciate
Yes,
you for
yes.
your honesty. I appreciate you for being unapologetic with it. I appreciate you for being authentic and answer people questions,
Yes.
allowing people to have space for their opinions. May Allah reward you. I just wanted to give honor to
I mean. And I thank you both for the opportunity for doing this live, as well as for the interview on the podcast, which is amazing. And how you see me, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows me to be that. Allahumma ameen. And I appreciate you both. Now, Sabria, I don't like, you know, I grew up, you know, well, I say grew up, but I remember you. And I'm just saying that you've turned out to be a really beautiful Muslima. No, let me change that. You turned out to be a really dope Muslim.
Oh,
woman.
mashallah. Hey,
Alhamdulillah.
mashallah, mashallah.
Yes.
And Veronique, mashallah, I honor you. Thank you so much for always riding with me, for rocking with the Dope Muslim Woman podcast. She is the organized one. She be looking at the comments and stuff. She keep up with the convo. Thank you to all the guests. Thank you so much. We love you guys. We promise that we will continue this dialogue. It doesn't end here. Come back tomorrow at 7. Come back on Friday at 7. We will finish it. You will get your piece out. Okay. All these comments will be here. We'll go through them, and, you know, hopefully maybe Mecca, you can look at them too later. All right. We love you guys. Okay. This has been another dope episode. We appreciated the mental break. Can I just say that? MashaAllah. Yes. This felt really good. All right. I love you guys. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Assalamualaikum.
I ain't gonna do that, Vanny. How do I end the live? I know, let me stop. I'm just gonna be my little indentation.
Every time, right?
I froze on purpose because I wasn't sure. I was like, am I supposed to leave? Am I supposed to stay? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like,
I'm
was I
supposed to stop the